Here are the top 10 superheroes who had to save their villains. My name is AJ with Top 10 Nerd, and let's just get right into it. Number 10, Spider-Man rescues the Green Goblin. So there's this crazy scene just before the Gathering of the Five arc in the Spider-Man comics. Spidey's out to rescue none other than Norman Osborn himself. Now the Kingpin sends Nitro to the living bomb to take Osborn out, but it all goes south when they end up trapped in an elevator about to collapse. Norman, Peter Parker, and Norman's grandson Normie are all in this precarious situation. Now Norman, being his crazy gloating self, uses this moment to taunt Peter, all like, hey, don't use your Spidey strength, the cameras might be watching. It's this intense standoff where both Norman and Peter are trapped, and the use of Peter's powers could blow his cover. But things got crazier when Peter had to make a tough call, as he could have left Norman hanging, literally, but when Norman pleads for Spidey to save his grandpa, Spider-Man caves and helps Norman out. Yet, even after being rescued, Norman just can't resist getting under Spidey's skin, telling him that he could have won if Peter had done nothing. This whole incident actually became a massive turning point in their feud, as Norman goes on this power quest in the Gathering of Five, gets way more insane, and then reveals his identity as the Goblin, and the beef between him and Spidey escalate to a whole new level of hostility. Almost makes you think, man, you should have just left him in the elevator. At number 9, Batman saves the Joker. In Batman Cacophony, there's this chilling scene where Omnotopia stabs Joker right in the heart. See, after this villainous team up went south, Omnotopia was all set to make a run for it, but decided to wait behind because he wanted to see if Batman will save the Joker or go after him. And that's where it got really interesting. Batman, despite Jim Gordon's strong protests, understandable since Gordon's entire family had been severely affected by the Joker, Batman chooses to save Joker. Gordon's wife was unalived and his daughter was crippled by Joker, so you can imagine the tension there. When the Joker asks Batman why he saved him, Batman drops his bombshell explanation about not being able to stand by and watch somebody perish. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. Really helps us out, gets the video seen by more people, and it makes me happy. At number 8, the Human Torch attempts to rescue Mustache Man. You guys remember World War II? You know the dude who led the fascist regime whose actions were so reprehensible that I can't even say his name on YouTube without being smited by the algorithm? Yes, that Mustache Man. Well, did you know that there's an account from the Invaders comic about that Yahtzee's demise? It's pretty wild. So during the siege of Berlin, the Golden Age Human Torch barges into Hitler's bunker. You see, he's there to give a chance to surrender to the Americans instead of the Russians, because apparently the Americans are gonna be more lenient. But guess what? Being isn't interested in surrendering to anybody. Instead, he goes on the offensive and attacks the Human Torch. In self-defense, the Torch ends up having to take out. It's a pretty intense moment where the Torch, just trying to offer an alternative, is forced to defend himself against one of history's most infamous figures. I mean, he tried to save him, but I mean, in history and in the comics, it really didn't turn out that way. At number 7, Reed Richards saves Galactus. So Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four actually had to save Galactus' life, the dude who almost wiped him out and attempted to drain Earth's life force. Pretty crazy. Now, as a result, Galactus, feeling grateful, makes his whole declaration that he won't mess with Earth again, at least for now. We all know he's gonna come back eventually. So crisis averted, but hold up, here's where it gets really wild. Later on, Reed finds himself in this interstellar courtroom facing a trial for his actions. Why? Because after his noble act, Galactus goes on and devours the Skrulls planet, causing the demise of billions. So Reed's goodwill and kind gesture backfired big time, and he's nearly for trying to save Galactus. At number 6, Spider-Man saves the Sinister Six. In a recent showdown, Spider-Man found himself saving his arch enemies, the Sinister Six, from the clutches of the Living Brain, a menacing intellect determined to uncover the hero's true identity. You see, Dr. Octopus sought Spidey's help when the Living Brain actually abducted the entire Sinister Six, pitting Spider-Man against a fierce super android. But here's the twist. You see, Spider-Man soon discovered that the Living Brain, obsessed with unmasking him, had resorted to extreme measures by kidnapping the Sinister Six and a few of Spidey's loved ones. Now, when confronted, the Living Brain appeared unnaturally terrified of the web slinger. Now then, after saving the Sinister Six, they turned against Spider-Man after the rescue, as they wanted to take out the Living Brain. And in a surprising turn, the Living Brain, witnessing Spider-Man's resolve to shield it, had a change of heart. It revealed that he was aware of Spider-Man's secret identity the whole time, but expressed a desire to understand the person beneath the mask. Touched by Spider-Man's compassion, the Living Brain assisted the hero before willingly allowing Spider-Man to disconnect it, finally acknowledging Spider-Man's true nature beyond his secret identity. At number 5, the Ninja Turtles save Shredder. Now there's this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adventure in the Archie comics, where there's this insane twist where the Turtles actually end up saving none other than their arch enemy Shredder from being possessed by Krang. So Shredder, being the guy he is super furious that he now owes his life to the Turtles. He goes off the grid for what feels like forever, both in the comics and in real life. But when he resurfaces again and pulls off this bold move by kidnapping Splinter, Leonardo doesn't hold back. He's all fired up, reminding Shredder that he's got a huge debt to pay because of their previous rescue mission. Now, surprisingly, Shredder kind of relents, releasing Splinter while making it clear that they are now even. This is an intense moment of reckoning between them where for a split second you think that Shredder might actually acknowledge owing the Turtles one. But man, it's one of those rare instances in their ongoing feud where things just reach temporary equilibrium. At number 4, Batman saves the Joker and the Red Hood. We all know the story of how Jason Todd became the Red Hood. After meeting his brutal end at the crowbar of the Joker, Todd is eventually resurrected and takes revenge on both the Joker and the Batman, seeing as the former Boy Wonder blames Bruce Wayne for not only failing to rescue him, but also failing to enact vengeance on the Joker. He holds the Joker hostage, giving Batman an impossible choice: save the villain by ending Todd, or take out the Joker. Now what's amazing is how Batman avoids this no-win scenario, as he doesn't resort to ending anybody. Instead, he pulls off this genius move by using a ricocheting which ricochets to disarm Todd, saving both the Joker and his former sidekick. At number 3, the Guardians save the High Evolutionary. The Guardians Volume 3 introduced this seriously twisted dude, the High Evolutionary, who had a brutal history of mistreating the Rocket Raccoon during his childhood. The Guardians have this intense showdown with him, and man, is it really the smackdown. And after a fierce battle, the High Evolutionary gets totally wrecked. But in the theatrical cut, it seems like they let him go down with his exploding spaceship. But there's this eerie deleted scene where Drax, of all people, saves the day by actually carrying the High Evolutionary to safety before locking him up on Nowhere. This opens up a whole new chapter because the High Evolutionary's survival means it could pop up in future MCU films. Considering how ruthless and twisted he is, it's doubtful that he's learned any lessons. This means that he might just return with more villainous schemes up his sleeve, making things way more complicated for our beloved heroes. At number 2, the Cutter saves Reek in ElfQuest. Have you guys ever read ElfQuest, that graphic novel from back in the day? There's this crazy moment when Reek ends up hanging off a stone bridge, and Cutter, in his classic style, mutters that soon-to-be famous line, "No elf must die." He scrambles out to help Reek, but here's the kicker. Reek isn't exactly grateful. Instead, he unleashes his pent-up anger on Cutter before backing off the bridge, leaving poor Cutter stuck up there dealing with his fear of heights. But what's cool is that this whole incident actually strengthens Cutter, as it gives him the determination needed to face a test he'd struggled with before, eventually leading to his victory in the final battle against Reek. At number 1, Superman saves Bizarro World. Superman always comes to the rescue. I mean, maybe not the Injustice Superman, but the OG Supes is there every time. He's a reliable guy to save the day, even when it's the totally bonkers Bizarro World on the line. I mean, that place is literally the definition of crazy. But Superman has got this thing about not letting anybody lose their home planet, no matter how wacky it gets. And he even saved Lex Luthor's life multiple times. Could you imagine? Luthor is like Superman's arch nemesis, aiming to take him down at literally every turn, with his whole life goal being just to take down Superman. Yet Supes just can't let somebody perish even if they're bent on destroying him. It's not just him either. The whole Justice League has this routine, as they'll smack down all the bad guys in a fight and immediately rush to make sure they're okay. It just goes to show that justice is about doing what's right, even for the ones trying to do them wrong. As always, if there's a superhero who tried to save their villainous counterpart that you think I missed here today, feel free to let me know down in the comments, and I'll try to include your suggestions in the next iteration of this list. This has been AJ with Top 10 Nerd, and I'll catch you all in another video. Later, nerds.